Hi and welcome to Indigo Starfire. My name is Bevin, and in this video I'm going to be looking into the question, who's crushing on you and will they make a move towards you? There are 3 groups to choose from. Group 1 is the green calcite. Group 2 is the lemon calcite. And group 3 is the rose quartz. So if you want to take a moment to center, focus on your breathing, and feel whichever group, maybe multiple groups, or perhaps all of the groups that you're most drawn to. I'll give you a minute to make your selection, and then we'll get right into it. And there are timestamps in the description box of the video for each group if you would like to jump ahead. And up next is a close-up photo of the crystals to help you better make your selection. Hi, Group 1. You chose the green calcite. So I'm going to start with some oracle cards to see who's crushing on you, and then I'll get into the question. Are they going to do something about this? Are they going to make a move towards you? Okay, so we have olive branch, handcuffs, still, flag, mice, geese, stallion, and tree. So this is definitely the energy of somebody that you may have walked away from at a certain point in time that is kind of watching silently from the shadows with this mice energy. A little bit of spying going on, sort of some sleuthing to see, are you still available? Are you single? Maybe if you parted on bad terms, are you still angry? Have you healed or gotten over something that was kind of an issue of contention between the two of you in the past? This definitely with the idea of kind of handcuffed can also talk about somebody you were married or engaged to, so like an ex-partner, ex-husband, ex-wife, somebody that you were living with or were in a long-term commitment with, or even kind of like a long-term friend almost is coming through, somebody that may have been sort of in your social circumstances, a lot of unspoken feelings in the past, but maybe you two have drifted apart or there was some rift between the two of you. And it's a desire, it feels like, not just to kind of present some kind of olive branch, some kind of truce flag in the sense of, let's let bygones be bygones, kind of put the past behind us in a certain way. Can we talk about this? Can we resolve this? Can we reconcile in kind of a multifold level? It's almost like they want to come back and not only revive the friendship between the two of you, but also seeking to kind of tap in maybe to some untapped seeds of potential, romantically speaking. If this was a friend that had not announced their romantic feelings before, maybe you extended the cup of love to them in the past and they rejected you. They've had second thoughts about that. This can also, though, if it's like an ex-spouse, ex-boyfriend, girlfriend, ex-partner, something in that extent, they may be wanting to start as friends first. So kind of trying to get back in the door and begin at square one, begin from scratch with you, may with the idea of still, like literally have been kind of a stillness, a stalemate, a long period of time since you talked with one another. And it's a sense of almost trying to like prune away with this tree here, any kind of bad blood between the two of you, anywhere in which they weren't necessarily the best partner to you in the past. There's this urge to rebuild from the ground up. But again, because this is a love reading, we're talking about a crush here. They do not simply just want to remain a friend, although they're kind of, it feels like they have this sense that if you were to let them back in the door at this point in time, they'd be lucky to be friend zoned by you. So it might have been something that it's almost the idea of like a lot of gossip with kind of the idea of community with geese and these mice right here. So something that might have been a bad breakup. There could have been a lot of he said, she said back and forth between the two of you. Other people could have gotten involved in this. There may have even been third-party situations as a factor here. And so it's somebody who's almost kind of wanting to come back in with their tail between their legs, hoping, praying that you'll give them the second chance to kind of make things right. You know, hoping that maybe exterior influences have not clouded your vision of the love the two of you once shared at one particular point in time. It feels that there's a degree of enthusiasm with this stallion here, somebody who really wants to come and show you a different side of themselves than they had demonstrated in the past. This idea with still, though, and handcuff, this can speak about addictions that were a factor. So maybe addictions that drove you to in different directions. Maybe you got sober and they continued to use drugs or alcohol, or they may have been the one addicted to different kind of behaviors, gambling, spending, you know, addicted to sort of not being able to maintain monogamy, you know, addicted to substances, a workaholic, anything in that nature. Even kind of people pleasing can be a form of addiction as well. So any of these things may have been a factor. There may have been a lot of meddling influences in your situation. Nosy mother-in-law, overbearing father-in-law, anything like that that sort of drove a wedge between the two of you. And it feels like with this stallion, they've almost taken control of their life in a certain capacity, and they're wanting to demonstrate to you some sort of change. This can talk about somebody as well with the olive branch and the flag who's wanting to come in and make amends, maybe as part of some kind of 12-step program that they've been in. They've made their moral inventory of people in their lives that their addictions or these shadowy parts of their life have harmed or offended, or that have just kind of led to a lot of pain and suffering within others. And so it feels to be kind of a dual purpose here in terms of they're not just, again, it's a crush reading, so they're not just wanting to come towards you and clear their own conscience, but it's almost they're starting to be able to see and appreciate that maybe you were the best thing that had happened to them. You actually were a positive influence on them. You know, maybe you've cleaned your life up, you've changed your life, and it's been an inspiration to them, or there's a sense that they've now done some evolution and change, and they're wanting to see, you know, can this connection really have a fair chance if we're starting on an equal ground? Even if it's not literal sobriety, it almost feels to be something to where they've cleaned out or vacuumed out some part of their life that was an interference. Maybe this is even kind of ties and tethers to distortions as far as partnerships are concerned, people that had betrayed them in the past, fears of commitment, things stemming from childhood and upbringing that had kind of been meddlesome in this situation that had sort of thwarted the connection between the two of you. And in the stillness, in the silence, it feels like they've broken free of some sort of patterning within. They've kind of loosed some bonds within themselves or within their life that had prevented them in the past from being more of a high vibrational partner to you. And so, you know, a lot of you probably at the idea of some sort of ex-partner, ex-person that you were dealing with, some people might be very excited to hear about this, that they've changed, they're wanting to move back in, not just to clear the conscience, not just to kind of stick into the friend zone and be friends, but you know, there is true romantic interest. It's enduring romantic interest, and they feel like they've come to a place in their life where, and you'll have to be the judge of that if they make the move forward, is this sufficient change, you know, to really kind of let them back in the door again? It feels like they do have something of value and substance to offer to you. It's almost kind of like they've scooted into this position where they're now sort of watching from the shadows, in this context of a lot of, you know, interest here. Again, the truce flag, the olive branch. This isn't just wanting to entertain kind of toxic patterns that you've been in before. It's they have something that they have done that they can actually demonstrate to you that is almost apology by way of changed action. For other people, though, the idea of this being an ex-spouse, an ex-partner, partner, something of that nature, it's not going to be received very well. You're probably thinking to yourselves, yeah, I don't want to hear from that person again. That was a very dark chapter, or, you know, it took a lot to kind of move beyond that, or I've grown, I've healed, I've evolved. Whatever connected us and bonded us at one point in time is no longer part of my personal reality, so I don't really know what we'd have in common with one another. That feels to be something that this person may be energetically picking up on as well, that is kind of leading to this energy of the mice. They're sort of spying, sleuthing, needing to figure things out. They've changed on some level, and they're aware maybe time has passed, and therefore, you know, reasonably you have changed as well. Any kind of corrosiveness or darkness in your connection in the past, there's a sense of that really interfered, whether this was something primarily on their side, your side, the two of you together, kind of bringing out the worst in one another. You know, a situation that was very kind of damaging for both people. There is a recognition on their part that, you know, if they hope to kind of respark or restart something, even kind of start fresh as friends, it's going to require sort of a different approach, a different attitude, a different vibration, and that it's highly likely, based on what has occurred in the past, that kind of this window of opportunity has come and gone. So maybe at the very least it can be that sort of, again, the urge to kind of make amends, to really take ownership of their part, their role in sort of what fell apart between the two of you, which for some of you that can prove to be very cathartic if they do choose to make that move towards you. You most likely have had been striving to sort of create that closure for yourself. Maybe some of you might be satisfied with that idea of vindication, or if it comes forth, you know, you might not be willing to open the door to your heart again, but it might almost be sort of that energy of, you know, you were right and I unfairly sort of projected blame, or I was operating from a very sort of selfish energy before, I took you for granted. Some kind of a conversation, some kind of like a confession of the heart that it feels like this person is intending to make to you, regardless of sort of what the outcome is. But there is definitely an energy in here where they're hoping that the two of you can clear away the past, that you can kind of rebuild from the ground up, a hope that the seeds of potential, or a curiosity if the seeds of potential between the two of you are still viable. You know, having grown, having learned, having evolved in some kind of capacity individually. You know, maybe the recipe wasn't right between the two of you in the past, but there's almost the sense of, can we make it work this time around? So I'm going to take a look now and see, are they going to do anything about this? Or are they just going to continue kind of lurking in the shadows, sort of standing on the sidelines, watching and thinking about things and waiting? Okay. So we've got the Two of Pentacles, which is Earth energy, Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo. Four of Pentacles, so more Earth energy. And the High Priestess, which is Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio. So there's definitely an indication that at least for the time being, they will continue to kind of watch and wait, keep their peace, hold their truth within. If this is somebody who's in some kind of recovery program, they're in the process of kind of cleaning up their life in some capacity, it may almost be that they're waiting to have more clean time, more sober time. This apology in the form of a changed version of them or changed action, it may be where they're kind of waiting to cement this down into some sort of a measurable time period, maybe you know, several more months until they have something to back up this assertion that they're wanting to make of, I have changed. It can also talk about a bit of sort of back and forth, though. They're dancing right at the brink of, like, is it time to move forth? A bit of fear of rejection that might be holding them back as well. Almost a sense of kind of with the High Priestess needing to gather more of that information, something also on the intuitive level maybe that is indicating to them it's important for them to kind of plan and strategize very properly what they're going to want to say, especially because most likely it feels like for most people in this that are resonating with this, you've had some dealings with this person before. This is most likely some kind of an ex-partner, or at the very least sort of like a friend, maybe where it came to the door to romance being open between the two of you and they rejected, they ran. It was like false start energy. You know, they chose not to move forward with you. And so it feels to be something that it's more complicated than just, I see the light now. I see who you are to me. I see the potential in this and I want to move forward. It's almost They're needing to build on several levels with you, which is requiring them to build in several levels within themselves. If there'd been like third-party situations in the form of meddlesome friends or family involved in this situation, this can be another element that is causing them to hold back a bit for the time being. There may still be kind of tethers or ties to those individuals where it's a sense of kind of, if these people had disapproved of the connection in the past and had influenced a decision to cut away, had fed into the toxicity, you know, whatever that looks like, that there's a factor of almost like, how do I make this move forward and keep these other people, these other influences, which is especially relevant if it's family members, for example, people that they can't just so easily or quickly kind of cut away from, that are still in some way involved in their life, almost a sense of not wanting to be judged, not wanting to have that same kind of interference or influence into the energy of a fresh start that may have undermined the connection in the past. So it feels that they themselves remain very secretive. This is just kind of, you know, from that shadowy energy, sort of watching, sort of preparing the way forward, wanting to maybe reach a point within themselves, perhaps even some kind of financial independence, or just sort of building from a place of lack into more of a sense of solidness within themselves, within the changes that they've made, allowing these things to crystallize more into form in terms of time that is involved in that, time being the biggest kind of proof that these changes are real, that they've implemented them, that there's been some sort of substantial shift. But with that being said, it's almost the idea of they keep their eye focused upon you. They keep their gaze firmly fixed upon you, as much as they may be sort of working through some other things in the material world. You know, this sort of delay or this hold up, it does feel as something that it's kind of, when the time is right, when they get that cue or that intuitive nudge to take a leap forward, whenever it's been, you know, enough time that has passed, or they've solidified something for themselves in another way. Maybe they're in the process of kind of setting up some boundaries with certain individuals that had been meddlesome in their life before, and so that's needing to kind of play out further. They're needing to sort of establish their own sovereignty before they feel ready to kind of approach you with the energy of, you know, I'm sorry, I want to try to rebuild this. I want to see if, you know, the feelings or the emotions maybe which didn't have a chance to really blossom between the two of us, if this would be a little bit of a better environment, personally on their part, jointly between the two of you, to be able to really tap into those seeds of potential this time and see, can we grow in a different direction? So I'm going to get a few oracle cards just to dig a little bit deeper into this, and I'll get some messages from their higher self, see what they want to tell you. Okay, so we have balance, unchanged. At this time, the situation is stable and unlikely to change, and trust. So this unchanged energy, again, really confirms this idea of like a holding pattern. At this particular point in time, you know, their interest is peaked, their attention is on you. They are crushing, they are liking what they are seeing. They like the idea of you, or the idea of resurrecting, resuscitating this connection in some manner, building from a more balanced place. But they may be in the process of, again, implementing change into their own life that is still, with this trust card, this is the egg moon. So it's like that seed of potential, something that is still gestating within their life or fully taking form. And until that change is rooted in reality, is grounded into a deeper truth, you know, within themselves and within this, you know, reality, it almost feels like they'll just continue to sort of hold back and watch. You almost represent, it feels like some kind of prize that they have their eye on. Not that these changes are being implemented for the sheer virtue of the fact of wanting to move back in your direction, but it's definitely a motivating factor, that it feels like the idea of, you know, maybe we can try again, maybe we can bring this situation back to life, maybe there's hope for us, maybe this time around things will be different, that in kind of their darkest hours, or in sort of these these moments where they may be experiencing a lot of doubt, you give them a sense of faith, a sense of hope and trust. You know, and it doesn't feel to be the idea of they're putting all their eggs into the basket of this connection can be brought back to life. For a lot of you, this would be something where, you know, this kind of stillness, this period of extraction that needed to happen from this person. The idea of both an olive branch and a flag of truce and truth that they are needing to bring forth to you. It's almost something that just may provide you with some sort of closure or some sort of vindication, but it may be just that too much has happened in the past and that, you know, you've grown, you've evolved beyond the situation, or that it would be easier said than done to fully kind of like forgive and forget. There's an awareness, there's a groundedness within this person that they're not kind of moving from a place of illusion or folly and sort of like, I'm going to make all these changes and I'm going to prove to this person I'm different and it's going to be our happily ever after. It's almost just, it's part of their personal process of change to make matters right. And there's this hope that maybe you'll like what you see as well, and that if there was love at one time in your heart for them, perhaps that flame has not burned out, and that there's the ability to kind of bring that back to life in a certain manner. So again, it's this balancing act right here. It's this Two of Pentacles, this process of ensuring at this particular point in time that whatever promises they make, whatever communication they make, whatever they demonstrate to you, that it is not just empty words, honeyed words, but that it comes with some kind of concrete action, something that really backs that up in terms of physical, tangible proof that they truly have turned the page in some way, that they have turned a new leaf, that they have reflected within and made adequate changes that are in resonance with a higher vibration of who they are, maybe who you always kind of hoped that they would be, who they were when you initially met or got together with one another the first time around, that maybe the situation unraveled, especially if it was like addictions were involved, then, you know, that's something where the person can change almost seemingly overnight into somebody very unrecognizable. And so there's this kind of hope here that this can be course corrected, that kind of this version of themselves that they're birthing at this particular point in time is enough of solid evidence to really prove to you that they've redeemed themselves in some way. But then also it's this idea of almost kind of trusting as well. So this does speak to some degree of kind of spiritual evolution that is currently taking place, that has taken place. This person may have had some kind of tower moment, hit some sort of rock bottom in their life, and is really kind of making a concerted effort to be a better person, to change certain things about their life, you know, to accept the past for what it is, to take the power and control into their hands, to make changes that they can, where they can in the here and now, in order to be able to choreograph in a more reciprocal manner, rather than just being kind of left to the whims of fate, the future that they want for themselves. And so there's trust that kind of whatever happens or does happen, if you reject them, you know, if you're willing to establish a friendship with them, if it's something that blossoms into something more, there's a sense of this act of moving towards you, that it's not now, but it's not never. They definitely intend on bringing something forth, to at least kind of balance the scales between the two of you, at least express to you that, you know, they were wrong in the past, or they're owning their part in the story between the two of you, to at least provide some kind of vindication or apology, and to also alleviate themselves from kind of any tethers to sort of that chapter, that experience of who they were. So they feel to again be in sort of a position of like spiritual maturity at this point in time, that yes, they have desires that romance can be rekindled in this situation, but there's also a part of them that is very accepting of maybe this is just closure for them, maybe it is just closure for you, maybe it's just something that kind of wraps up your story. They take action. They make an effort to conclude the narrative of the two of you on more of a positive note than whatever kind of the sourness was that things really ended at between the two of you in the past. So let's see what they want to tell you from their higher self, and then I'll get some initials to close out the reading. So they say, I can't stop thinking about you. So there's definitely this understanding that in some way this situation between the two of you, maybe these are feelings that they had denied that they are needing to bring forth kind of when the time is right, that it's preventing them from fully moving forward in their life until they speak their truth in a certain manner. They're also really thinking and reflecting on the ways in which they treated you, ways in which distortions within themselves or actions that they had taken, treated you unfairly, took you for granted, added to or contributed to some level of darkness in your life, the ways in which you almost might have brought out the worst in one another. Perhaps not always, but at a certain point in the connection, it feels like something that did not end on a good note. This was not an amicable kind of parting of the ways, and it's haunted them. It's something that they really have thought of. It feels like in whatever kind of process they are undergoing to become a better person, to make changes in their life, they are reminded that this is an aspect of karma. This is an aspect of unfinished business that they owe it to you and they owe it to themselves to at least sort of infuse this situation with more positivity and higher vibration than how things were left. They also say, you will always be my secret love. So they do still hold love and affection for you despite what has happened between the two of you, however much time has gone on, whatever kind of lower vibrational things resulted, maybe, gossiping, spreading rumors, being very, very distorted in the aftermath of your breakup with one another, ways in which they treated you. I'm getting a little tongue-tied there. So there's a lot that they want to say that it's kind of, they don't know exactly how to express this. There's a lot of kind of embarrassment about this. It's sort of almost when their vision has cleared, when they've got sober, maybe just spiritually sober or literally sober, it's horrifying to them, the way that they treated you or mistreated you, how much they were operating in kind of a lower density vibration. And it's something which they have this secret kind of wish that, that they can set the record straight, that they can make matters right with you, that they can revive or reestablish the friendship, and that you can find it somewhere in your heart to let them in again, romantically speaking. And they also say the changes are real. So that confirms this idea of somebody who has been making a concerted effort to change their life, to turn over a new leaf, to implement some long overdue kind of changes in a very positive way in their life. But again, they are waiting until they have some kind of time, something that backs up kind of the promise of I've made changes, or the declaration of I've changed, and they want to be able to say I've changed, and it's been 6 months, it's been a year, it's been this many years since I stepped away from whatever kind of the problem was in the past, or something that they're really trying to get to take root and to ground down into their material reality, so that they're not just kind of freshly emerged into this new version of self, but they've actually kind of taken concrete steps that are measurable away from a version of them or things that were involved in their life in the past that undermine this connection. They also say you deserve more. So admitting again that you deserve better, you deserve more than how things were left, how they handled the separation between the two of you in the past, any pettiness that was involved there, anything that was of a low vibrational nature, they're in a lot of regret about that. So again, kind of this double purpose here, this double sort of interest that they have. They still have romantic feelings for you. You're their secret love. They still harbor a lot of love for you inside, but then there's also something on a moral level, on a spiritual level, where there is a deep need at the very least to be able to provide you with some kind of vindication or apology for how things played out. They also say you were so unexpected. So this may even tie into the idea of when the situation unraveled between the two of you, it instituted some sort of tower moment for them. Now, they may have been skirting rock bottom for quite some time before they got to the point when they were ready to make changes within themselves. But it almost feels as well that when they started to kind of take steps in better directions, make healthier choices to heal, grow, and expand, it was very unexpected to encounter you there in the heart space, to really be able to see so clearly feelings that they had run from, or that they had just sort of covered or tried to tarnish with a lot of distortion within themselves. It feels like, not that it's any excuse, but if they were, you know, sort of turning to third parties and gossiping or slandering in the aftermath of the two of you moving your separate ways, there's almost a sense of kind of, you know, they were operating from a place of sort of hurt and darkness within themselves in a certain capacity. And the fact that they have like found their personal light, it's filled them with a sense of regret about that. Very unexpectedly, they're thinking about sort of the aftermath of the situation with you falling apart. And it may be something where they're revisiting this almost with compassion or softness or an energy of wanting forgiveness, which might be very unexpected for how they were holding this energy, almost like someone who was holding a grudge for a very long time, or was just sort of seeing things from their own sort of linear perspective, and now they've been given this wider view. They've seen the light in a way. Something may have been mirrored to them as well. Someone may have treated them the way they treated you, and it's provided this aha moment for them in a sense of kind of like, I need to go back and try to make this situation right because I see now sort of the error of my ways. And they also say, I just need more time. So again, this confirmation that this person does intend to come towards you, to seek you out, to find a way, to make some sort of communication, to at least make the effort to set the record straight between the two of you. But they are very deliberately waiting at this particular point in time to be able to have something measurable and meaningful to provide to you that supports what they are wanting to declare and present of, I have changed. These are the following changes that I've made. This is how long whatever that change looks like, however long it's been in their life, in their reality, or they may even still be in a process of kind of navigating this new version of themselves and are needing to sort of steady themselves in this new vibration before they take those steps towards you. So I'm going to get some initials, and this can be a first, middle, or last name of you or this person, or it can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. K, L, I, P, E, U, Z, R, D, O, F, C, O, M, A, B, A, F, B, S, P, Y, S, C, and Q. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop, and there's a link in the description box of the video for that. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of those out as well. And I've launched a second channel here on YouTube, which is called Lady of the Dawn Tarot. There's a link in the description box as well as in the channel section of my page for that. The format over there consists of readings related to topics other than love and romance. So if you're looking for something a little different from me, that is the place to find it. And I thank you for your support there as well as for your continued support here on this channel. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 2. You chose the lemon calcite. So I'm going to start with some oracle cards to get a feel for who is crushing on you at this time, and then I will get into the question, are they going to do something about this? Are they going to make their feelings known or make a move towards you? So we have tools, telephone, inventor, hot air balloon, light bulb, woman, falcon, and stars. So with the stars energy, the phrase Prince Charming is coming through. So regardless of if this is a man or woman, this may be somebody who is very charming. They're used to getting a lot of attention, or getting their way in terms of love and romance and partnership. There's also an energy here with the idea of like tools and inventor. This may be a work connection in a certain sense for some of you, and it's odd that it was coming through as in a certain sense. So it can be somebody who's maybe in the same field as you. Maybe you work in like a big business park, and this is somebody who, where there's like multiple companies that kind of rent out suites, or rent out sort of segments within high rises, or sort of in a little kind of collective or a community. So this can be somebody who kind of works in that proximity to you, but not necessarily a direct coworker. This telephone is bringing to mind, for people that work in like a large call center environment, this can be one of those employees. So they might be in like a different department than you, a different branch even than you, for some people, where you're not necessarily even dealing with one another face to face, maybe a little bit over, say, Zoom meetings or things of that nature. But it could be a lot that's happening over some kind of inter-office communication system, emails back and forth, tech support is coming through as well. So there's some element of almost, you know, one another by voice. So you talk a lot on the phone, or again, there's some kind of element of virtual communication back and forth, but there might be sort of a disconnect here in terms of physicality, to where this person might almost be kind of in this dreamy sort of energy, even with that reference to Prince Charming, kind of this fairy tale idea, where the crush, as far as that they have on you, it's almost that the distance has caused them to kind of have to lean into their imagination a lot. There's a lot that is kind of unknown, unseen at this particular point in time. You may not have even encountered one another physically or face to face. If this is somebody you just talk to on the phone and you just chat, you may not have even had that kind of eye-to-eye communication in terms of a video chat or a Zoom even. And so it's something though where maybe energetically about you, ways in which you communicate, something about you has really sort of sparked or stirred something within them. The idea of inventor and hot air balloon, this is almost tying into the idea of that they make up excuses to talk to you, to reach out to you. If it's somebody who works in like a larger kind of call center or a business park, or is even sort of, doesn't work for your employer, but they're in some way able to sort of see you at a distance in a certain manner. They may be making up excuses to kind of cross your path. They've rearranged their schedule or their lunch in some kind of way to where they're walking by almost hoping that you'll take notice of them. They're trying to operate in a very magnetic and receptive energy. That their action-oriented polarity is again sort of going out of their way to make themselves more conspicuous, to sort of insert themselves into your world, into your reality, but it doesn't feel like anything that they've necessarily announced those feelings yet. There might have been a little bit of casual flirtation back and forth, or if it's somebody that you don't necessarily have a lot of direct dealings with, but you see them physically, like across a cafeteria, maybe in a common kind of area or common sort of place. It's almost that it's giving me this visual of somebody, you feel that you're being watched or looked at, and you look up and there's somebody across the room, and they'll kind of make eye contact, maybe smile, a little mysterious smile, and then sort of look away. And that could have been going on for quite some time. A little bit of a game of cat and mouse almost, where they're remaining very aloof, kind of like the bird's eye view with the falcon here. There's a lot of intention towards you. They definitely, there's this interest, there's this spark, there's this curiosity, but again, they've kind kind of taken it to these heights of almost fantasy or idealism. They may be putting you on a pedestal to a certain extent. It feels like this is very uncharacteristic for them to almost, it feels like a very pure energy, so it's not necessarily obsession, but they're definitely fixated on the idea of almost hoping to get you to be the one to say something first, getting you to be the one that kind of gives them some signal, gives them some sort of cue, in which case then they would swoop in and kind of adjust their behaviors accordingly. But it feels like this is very uncharacteristic, very out of character for them. This isn't somebody who typically kind of falls into these stances of limerence, almost is the phrase that's coming through here, where there's so much that they've almost kind of cooked up in their head about who you are, or what the connection might be like if there were a connection that were developed, and this is atypical for them. So this is not stalker energy right here. This is just somebody who's really, maybe you have a soul connection or some kind of past life connection with one another. It's something that you've really just, you've caught their attention in some way, and there's a degree of fascination, almost wanting to move in closer for a better view, you know, or finding like reasons or excuses to kind of be in proximity with you. It feels like if you are exchanging with one another, maybe it's just very routine, very mundane, very work-based at this particular point in time. They're almost sort of, they're savoring every sort of word, every sort of phrase, every sort of subtlety or nuance. For some of you, this will be somebody that, like if it's IT support in your office, for example, and they're coming to your desk, they're coming to your cubicle, you know, you're having that kind of face-to-face interaction. It may just be limited to that. And they're almost kind of, they get very excited when sort of a help request comes in for you, or they're needing to do something in proximity to where you are, but it almost feels that it's very limited contact in terms of they don't really know much about you as a person. Maybe they're gleaning a lot of information based on, or assumptions rather, based on kind of photographs that you have on your desk. They've definitely taken note. Do you have a wedding ring? Do you seem to be involved with somebody? If there was ever flowers on your desk, you know, if they've come for a birthday, even if these are something that came from a friend, it almost feels to be something that it would have filled this person with a lot of jealousy. Even the idea of that. Oh, are they seeing someone else? Is someone else getting to spend time with them because they've cooked this up in their mind as kind of a fantasy or like an ideal relationship at this particular point in time, even though there's not, it feels here that there's not really been anything more than perhaps a smile, a glance, maybe a little bit of, you know, kind of flirtation here, but it's something that at this point in time, it's existing in their mind. They may be just somebody that's of a romantic temperament in general, although again, it doesn't feel that they're typically sort of leaning into stances of limerence, where they're seeing somebody, there's an attraction, and then instead of doing something about it, they just sort of have this whole relationship with a person in their mind. This doesn't feel to be kind of their typical way of moving in love and romance. They feel to be somebody who ordinarily is confident. They're able to go out there and mingle with people. They're able to go out there and sort of have a healthy dating life. It's possible that they may have actually, they may be freshly divorced, freshly single. They've kind of been out of the dating scene for a while. That can be this element where keeping the distance, it feels safer for them at this point in time. Like they're not pressured or unhappy with kind of where things are at, where they're sort of cooking it up to be in their mind. They like this element of mystery. They almost like that this is kind of just a secret that they have within themselves. They don't really feel to be anything where, you know, there is a little bit of this kind of concern. Are you seeing anyone? Are you available? You know, what if somebody else sort of moves in too quickly and they miss their chance? But there's another part of them that almost just kind of, they like this. It's a secret sort of element between them and sort of the idea of you that's going on at this particular point in time. So this may be somebody who is, it's coming through as like a very kind of an intelligent person, but somebody who may have sort of difficulty as far as like social skills are concerned, or difficulty sort of crossing the line between you know, work-related topics and dealings with individuals, and then sort of crossing that divide or that precipice into more personal matters, which it feels like they're almost kind of playing a little bit coy with you, or a sense of even just energetically speaking. If this is ringing any bells, it feels like for some of you, there's going to be this light bulb moment, this aha moment. You're going to know exactly who this is, especially with that idea of somebody that you may have kind of caught them caught them kind of staring at you at various points in time, only to have them look away, and it's been a little confusing. It's been a little perplexing, and it almost feels to be something where, you know, they're kind of just, you intimidate them on a certain level, and yet they're sort of hoping for more of a sign or a clue or indicator so that they can move in a little bit closer to you. But it may be something where it's almost as well, they may not be used to kind of developing crushes on people in a work situation, so that can be kind of this need for a little bit of, I have to keep this in kind of this fantasy sort of realm, because I don't know how to navigate this, especially if you're working for the same employer. There may be concerns about like inter-office fraternization, if there's a policy about that, or even some kind of fear of like, if this doesn't work out, what's that going to do to our work relationship? So they're just sort of, they're happy to observe at this point in time. They're flying high in the realm of fantasy, in terms of just, you know, the full range of things, passion-based fantasies. It's almost the idea of kind of just very mundane things that the two of you might do with one another. There's a lot of curiosity here, a lot that still needs to kind of be invented or created out of this situation. They're operating with a very limited knowledge base at this particular point in time, but and this may be something that you're definitely picking up that vibe or that cue, even if it's somebody that you're dealing with, you know, virtually speaking, where there's kind of a lack of direct eye contact, or sort of this, especially if there's no physical interaction between the two of you, you might just sense something. Your instinct might tell you, your spidey sense might tell you that, you know, there's a vibe here, there's something going on here, and so that can be kind of a confirmation of these sort of feelings, or the same kind of level of fascination, curiosity, or interest that this person also has within. They're vibing out on you, and you're picking up on that. So let's take a look and see if they're going to do anything about this, or are they just kind of going to linger in this energy of the fantasy world, you know, Prince Charming and kind of the happily ever after, but not really doing anything to carry that forth. Or are they going to change that? Are they going to make a move towards you? Okay, so we have Wheel of Fortune, which is mutable energy, Pisces, Gemini, Virgo, and Sagittarius. Judgment, which is Scorpio. And Queen of Swords, which is air energy, Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra. So this definitely indicates that they do plan on making a move towards you, announcing themselves, expanding the layer of conversation between the two of you, starting to sort of reach over into more of the clarity and truth about, you know, there's been a stirring within my heart for you. I've got this interest to you. You know, let's kind of expand beyond the small talk or the office chat. If this is something where they've kind of just been watching you across the room, this definitely can speak about plans that are being put in place at this current point in time to move towards you, to strike up some kind of conversation, you know, to reach out to you, or to almost call you forth to them in a certain way, or announce themselves in a particular manner. So maybe if they're watching you across the cafeteria, they start to make that move closer. They're, you know, every day, or kind of as the weeks go by, they're inching their way closer. They're a table closer, and then all of a sudden they're right next to you, and then they're there at the pop machine saying, "Hi, I'm so and so." One day, this is not somebody who just wants to kind of lurk forever and ever in this idea of fantasy. But they're definitely in a strategy mode at this particular point in time. So maybe more information that needs to be gathered, courage that needs to be summoned. They may be waiting for a sign, or again, waiting for that cue or indicator from you that it is safe to approach. So something as far as the signals that you are giving them, because they're definitely sort of thinking back on the interactions between the two of you and sort of digesting it a little bit, picking it apart, reading between the lines. And so if this resonates with somebody that you're already kind of aware of who this can be that cue or indicator to you that they just need some sort of nudge from you. You know, they do plan on being the one to be very direct in this situation. They're in receptive mode right now, but this isn't somebody who's just gonna, you know, sit on the fence until you approach and ask them out, or ask them to kind of evolve in their dealings with you. But they are waiting for something a little more subtle in order to really have that kind of green light to progress forward in some manner, to move in closer to you. And so it feels like something that they may already have some sort of plan that's in motion. There may already have been changes that they've subtly been starting to implement. If it's the energy of somebody who, maybe has sort of made a point to walk by your desk, if you're working in the same business park, to sort of time their arrival or their lunches, or where they're parking, kind of the route that they're walking to and from work. They may have already started to kind of deviate from their usual plan, their usual routine, in order to kind of create more of the conditions that would be conducive to the two of you having space with one another, sharing the same elevator up to whatever floor you work at, something where, you're walking in tandem with one another. You're more in a direct space with one another, and kind of those surface level, those environmental conditions. Again, it's not the energy of somebody who just kind of wants to hover there, but they're sort of almost moving a lot of pieces around behind the scenes in order to come to this very direct place where they can kind of speak that truth, maybe even literally with kind of this Archangel Gabriel with his trumpet there. Sort of, this could be something where they're literally wanting to like call you, communicate with you, email you, chat with you, something that kind of the nature of those dealings, if that's how you're interacting with them at this particular point in time, they're getting ready to sort of lean into more personal matters, to expand beyond the nature of what you've been talking about at this point in time. Or if it's just been like casual flirting or innuendo or suggestion, there may be sort of plans that are being laid in place at this particular point in time to perhaps invite you somewhere outside of work, make plans and preparations, or expand the nature of your conversations to, again, more personal matters, getting to know one another on more of that one-on-one level, as kind of a prelude to expressing some more interest directly, or just needing to kind of, there's a level of this person that understands in a certain way that they have kind of built this up into fantasy. You're on a pedestal at this particular point in time. They may be very intimidated by you, or intimidated by the idea of communicating this. Again, if there's kind of like a work connection here, that might be a factor as well, where they're sort of like feeling it out. They're sort of waiting to see if this would be appropriate. But they don't just want to kind of exist in the realm of fantasy forever. There's a desire to know, there's a desire to touch down, to communicate something, to open these lines between the two of you, of realistically needing to sort of broaden your interactions and dealings with one another. That this isn't somebody who's going to say, oh, I love you, I've loved you for so long, I've had all these feelings from afar. They understand there's some realm of fantasy going on here, and therefore it's very logical and practical energy with the Queen of Swords of, we need to sort of move in closer. There needs to be sort of a coming down to earth, out of the ethers and into more kind of like practical, mundane dealings with one another, to see, is this stirring in the heart? Can this lead to something? Is this just kind of the idea of wanting something that you can't have, or that seems very elusive? So there's an interest here in sort of expanding the nature of your dealings, maybe keeping it, still sort of professional. Again, not necessarily opening up fully about kind of how much they've been thinking about you or how long they've been thinking about you, but definitely a proactive energy of launching something forward. So let me get some oracle cards to get a little more clarity about this, and then I'll get some messages from this person's higher self. So we have pleasure. It's time. It's time for action. Things are fast-tracked to unfold quickly and smoothly. And gratitude. So definitely with this, it's time in the Wheel of Fortune. There's some kind of plan that they have in motion. They're waiting for go time. They're waiting for launch time. They're waiting for that right opportunity to announce themselves. And this isn't something where they're just going to wait in vain. They're going to wait forever. Opportunities, windows of opportunity passing them by, that may have already been the case. And so there's a determination with this to touch ground, to really kind of express to you, have this sort of meeting of the minds, or more of this direct and some kind of intimate communication with one another than has been the case up to this point in time. Because they do represent a secret admirer energy that in varying degrees, for everybody watching this, it's almost, you may just be on a surface level familiar with them. This isn't just like stranger out in the shadows. In some way, even if it's somebody where you're kind of working in buildings near each other, you've at least made eye contact. You would at least recognize this person as like, oh yeah, I see them sometimes. They've smiled at me. They started to hold the door open. You know, you would notice that they're kind of moving in closer. And it's with this urge to sort of, you know, lean into a very kind of positive direction. Not to just kind of get that closer view, you know, stalk from a little closer to the object of their desire, but it's with this intention of kind of presenting, you know, their best self. They're putting their best foot forward, wanting to make sure that they are in a space of comfort, that they are not just rushing into this situation, but it is with the intention of, you know, kind of evolving beyond the barriers or the constraints of how you're dealing with one another up to this point in time, and leaning into the sense of, you know, transitioning this connection in a very positive way into an actual connection, because it's just a crush at this point in time, or it's just a coworker at this particular point in time. So they may actually try to, this idea of gratitude, it's almost something, because it feels like they've been cooking up little excuses, little kind of plans to sort of be nearer to you, or to cross paths with you, or to try to get your attention or get you to notice them. But it may almost be something where they're looking for a point in time where they can offer you a helping hand or be of more assistance than they ordinarily are. If they're like the person that works in IT and you've put in the help requests, they really enjoy spending time with you in that sense, but they're almost kind of waiting for the opportunity or something that presents itself where they can kind of, they can step into almost like a chivalrous energy, sort of go that extra mile in order to kind of crack open beyond your dealings with one another up to this point in time, in order to be able to sort of, you know, experience things more on a personal level, start to sort of lean those conversations or those interactions or dealings into something that's a little more intimate and a less sort of business than it is at this particular point in time. So it is the energy of they're still watching, but they're definitely in the process of planning some sort of move towards you, something that, you know, they're hoping that you receive them well. They're hoping to kind of move into, again, more of that direct contact, maybe like face-to-face contact, something that is kind of spoken. It's like taking the long route to this point of what they've wanted to say for quite some time. You fascinated them for quite some time. They felt this stirring for quite some time. They've really built it up at this point. But then again, it's this understanding that, okay, it's maybe gotten a little carried away in terms of the realm of fantasy, which could really be something that is leaning them into the place of it's time to ground this down into material reality and see how does that tangible real world experience match up with kind of the projection of what I'm imagining could be possible in this situation if we, you know, start talking, if we start dating, if that evolved into something else, etc., etc. So let's see what this person wants you to know from their higher self at this time. They say you were so unexpected. So this ties into the idea of this is not somebody who usually mixes business and pleasure. This is not somebody who's usually developing kind of inner office crushes and romances. This is not someone who usually leans into a space of limerence and fascination and fixation on virtual strangers, although it seems like there's some degree of like a working relationship or some familiarity with this person as kind of part of the scenery or the environment of whatever you do professionally speaking. So for them, this is all new territory, which is definitely leading to a bit of sort of watching and wait, but it feels like they've already been watching and waiting for quite some time. And so now it's kind of action. It's go time. It's time to sort of bring this to the next level. They're playing coy at this particular point in time, but it's almost like they're just sort of waiting one little spark, one little cue, a little indicator from you, or maybe even something from their higher self or spirit that kind of gives them that green light, that signal to, step out of the realm of where they built this into this idealized thing between the two of you, and to really, in practical ways, see how does the reality of the situation match up with the idea of the situation. And they also say, I want to be vulnerable with you. So this does indicate a desire to open up, to expand the nature of your dealings and conversations beyond just business, beyond just the workspace. They're wanting to get to know you on a personal level, spend time outside of the office, or to initiate conversation and kind of just move in and spark something, especially if it's the idea of somebody who works kind of near to you, but not necessarily the same employer. It's an energy of, you're somebody who's very fascinating. You're somebody who has caught their attention. There's something about you, energetically speaking, that has just drawn them in. It has captivated them. And it's this energy of wanting to sort of open up, not just wanting to remain an observer forever, kind of on the outskirts of your life, wondering. They may not even know your name at this particular point in time. And so being vulnerable, starting in that sense, introducing themselves, exchanging in that capacity, and then just really sort of seeing what happens very organically from that point. They also say, I'm afraid to trust. So they may be a bit skeptical about the nature of their feelings. They may fear that this is limerence or obsession, or that they're just kind of building this up into a lot of fantasy, which ties into the idea of they want to move in closer. They don't want to rush into this situation, but they also don't want to continue to wait in the wings much longer. One way or another, they need to know. And yet they're afraid to kind of fully sort of maybe follow the signs or clues or indicators that they've had up to this point in time. So it's kind of just a watch and wait sort of energy. They may have also been hurt in love before. And so, this is kind of all new territory. It ties in as well of someone who may have been single for a while. Maybe they recently got out of a relationship. They were divorced. They weren't looking for love. And then all of a sudden something has sparked for this person that they've got some sort of professional connection with. So it's this idea of, I don't know if I'm ready to open my heart to a new experience. I don't know if, this is something where it's just kind of a rebound. That's another energy here of almost wanting to kind of take their time and observe from that higher vantage point, being very aware maybe of this quality within themselves that they are still or have been recovering from some sort of disappointment in love. And so, it almost feels like they're now kind of getting close to that point in time of wanting to take a leap of faith, feeling ready to at least put themselves out there and see what happens between the two of you. They also say, I'm sorry I triggered you. So this can talk about a few missed opportunities or a little bit of awkwardness between the two of you. This mostly applies, it feels like, if you have some dealing professionally with one another. You may have given this person signs or signals that you were interested in. They kind of fumbled the ball. You thought that it was building up to that point, that maybe they were going to confess something, and then they just kind of got cold feet. They weren't sure if they were ready to open up. It was presented just too quickly, and so they kind of fell back into the energy of the comfort zone, just wanting to observe, wanting to kind of watch, and they're acknowledging that it's time to kind of step beyond that, to take a leap of faith, to put themselves out there in some particular manner. And to not just kind of sit. It almost feels like they themselves as well are kind of triggered by the idea of attention you might be getting. Again, if this is something where, they're able to sort of walk by your desk or your cubicle, for example, if they've seen flowers, they've seen pictures of you with other people, things of that nature. If you look particularly happy or glowing on a day, and they're thinking, well, who made them smile? What are they so happy about? Maybe they just had a date. Maybe they just had something really wonderful happen in romance. And so it's triggering them to kind of just remain in this crush observer position at this point in time, which is another motivator that is kind of leaning them to that place of speaking some truth, or at least opening those lines of discussion to put themselves out there. They also say, I don't want to let you down. So again, they're wanting to handle the situation with precision. There may be a matter of necessity here. If this is a coworker, wanting to, move about this very delicately so that your work relationship is preserved, it's intact. Nobody's uncomfortable in the workspace if things were to fall apart between the two of you. It's a sense of them wanting to put their best foot forward as well, which is why kind of they've been sort of announcing or planning themselves from from a more removed or remote stance, kind of leaning in energetically, making their way to you, right to that place where, you know, you're eye to eye, you're face to face, or they're feeling today's the day, and I'm going to expand the nature of our dealings with one another to something more personal and less professional. They also say you hit me out of nowhere. So another confirmation of that unexpected energy. This is definitely somebody who does not typically crush on people in situations like this. They're not one who is really prone to obsession or fantasy. They may be a romantic person, but it feels like they've taken this to almost a whole other level, that it might really, the practical part of them may be saying, okay, if this continues on like this, it may border on something unhealthy. And so therefore movement needs to happen. Action needs to happen. Communication needs to happen. There has to be a knowing one way or another. Is this reciprocal? Is there potential here? Is this something where you can get to know one another? Is there chemistry? Is there compatibility? And so it's something where, you know, they've been watching, they've been observing, they've been putting out some kind of subtle signals or signs, but they're definitely getting ready to move in closer and to in some way announce themselves more directly, or to open up with you, or maybe open up to you for the first time in a way that is different from how you've experienced them up to this point in time. So I'm going to get some initials, and this can be a first, middle, or last name of you or this person, or it can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Okay, we've got U, Z, E, F, K, I, T, V, I, T, A, C, R, L, O, W, B, V, and X. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop, and there's a link to that in the description box of the video. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of those out as well. And I've launched a second channel here on YouTube, which is called Lady of the Dawn Tarot. There's a link to that in the description box of the video, as well as in the channel section of my page. The format over there consists of readings related to topics other than love and romance. So if you're looking for something a little different from me, that is the place to find it. I thank you for your support there, as well as for your continued support here on this channel. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 3. You chose the rose quartz. So I'm going to start with some oracle cards to get an idea about who's crushing on you, and then I'll take a look and see, are they going to do something about this? Are they going to make a move, make their feelings known to you? So we have still, baggage, roadblocks, symphony, double rainbow, squirrel, butterfly, and diamond ring. So this is definitely the energy of perhaps a friend, someone part of a friend group, someone who you spend time with, platonically speaking, but one or both of you may already be in other connections. Maybe this person is even married with diamond ring. This could be somebody as well that was kind of, if you were married at one point in time, this might have been like a friend of a spouse. You were friends with this person's spouse. It almost feels to be that some kind of third party or entanglements of that sense are a block or a hindrance, or may have even with the idea of still, this could be somebody from your past, so somebody who fits that description of, you know, a friend of a spouse, a friend of somebody you were in a connection with, or vice versa. This could have been, you know, the significant other of somebody maybe you were friends with, for example, and that there was a lot of chemistry between you and this person previously, or if they're still sort of, you know, in the mix and in this sense at this particular point in time, maybe you're friends with their significant other in any capacity, that it wasn't acted upon. It's kind of like an unfinished symphony. It's unwritten. You know, it's all this chemistry, all of these kind of like beautiful musical notes and potential here in this situation. But like there was not an ability to kind of interact with one another or act upon that, or was a sense of kind of a failure to launch, not due to necessarily fear within themselves, or fear within you, but just because of, again, other entanglements, other blocks of a more sort of concrete nature. May have been very unexpected when you encountered one another, or if this is something, you know, where maybe you were able to just have kind of a friendship with one another, be friendly with one another, and then roads kind of took you in different directions. You know, people had falling outs with people. Maybe this is even something where, you know, divorces needed to happen or breakups needed to happen. In some way, it almost feels to be your paths have diverged with one another. And with this idea of double rainbow, they may have kind of, if this is someone who's now single at this particular point in time, they may have recently kind of come across you, like an algorithm on social media, for example, recommended you. They haven't thought about you, or had kind of, you know, always sort of wondered what could have happened, maybe in a different time, kind of like right person, wrong time. And it almost feels there's been some kind of act of serendipity, or like this card says, divine intervention that has brought you to their awareness. This can be something where, you know, they're in the process of kind of getting out of a connection. Maybe you've gotten out of a connection. The roadblocks that at one point in time barricaded the two of you have been essentially sort of obliterated or lifted in a sense, to where the road may be clear to be able to transform something, or it would be the idea of almost evolving beyond just somebody you were friendly with, or someone who is the significant other of someone you were friendly with, or even kind of if you had a significant other and you had like a friend, you know, another couple you were friends with, this could be sort of the spouse or partner on that other side of that equation, to where third parties, like on both ends, interfered with doing anything about this. But it almost seems to be something, for some people it's going to be where third party situations are either on their way out, kind of the baggage is being dropped, the load has been lightened in a particular way, and it's somebody who has kind of an interest, a desire to sort of resurrect this, transform this, act upon or explore that chemistry, that untapped potential between the two of you, now that sort of the road is clear and fate and fortune has smiled upon them to the ability where, you know, maybe it is now the right time. You're both single, you're both unattached, you've both gotten out of connections, you've both gotten divorces, or again, by some means or method, they've kind of been reintroduced to the idea of you and are now in a place where they're able to move forward confidently. For others of you, though, this is something where there are still third-party situations that are a hindrance, and so this can be something that it weighs very heavily upon them. There's a lot of chemistry here. It's something where they're almost kind of chalking it up to sort of like, if divine intervention happens in a perfect world, if only I had met this person sooner, if only situations were different. So there's a lot of pining here, a lot that is unexpressed with the idea of the still, you know, literally the stillness. It's held within, but it also talks about sort of the toxicity of kind of not expressing that, that it may have not been expressed. These feelings may not have been acted upon or openly communicated, again because of third-party situations in some capacity, but it's almost They've been unable to extinguish these feelings, and it's now being held in like a degree of toxicity within. It's leading to a lot of frustration and resentment. It can definitely tie in with this double rainbow to like a soul connection that you have with someone where they're just not able to shake it. It's beyond just being attracted to someone or having a 7-year itch or being very bored or dissatisfied in their connection. This is more than the energy of a temptation. It feels like the ways in which they've been able to interact with you at this point in time, the very idea of you, maybe even just being in kind of like a group setting or like a friend group in some manner where there's, different couples and different sort of outings and events that everybody goes on, without meaning to, they're very much drawn to you. And it's something to where they can't just kind of sit on the side and look. They're now harboring it in this energy of heaviness. It may be very awkward now with this person. It may have gone where things were very kind of happy and sort of surface level with you and this individual, and when you see them now or when you interact with them now, they may almost like avoid eye contact. They make an excuse not to come. They cancel plans at the last minute, or just they almost are kind of like stonewalling you at this particular point in time. That may be leading to a lot of confusion within you, sort of what's going on in this situation. Like, why have they changed, at least kind of the nature of your dealings with one another. It may be something where, if you're both in other situations, even you may have just resigned yourself to this is, maybe in another life, maybe further down the road, maybe if circumstances change, although it feels to be something where this idea of like all these suitcases here, there's enough of an entanglement that there may have been kind of third-party elements on both sides, that it's not just as easy as like one person getting out of a connection. There's all these other kind of subtleties and nuances involved here, to where you may have just been in the point of kind of like, okay, there's definitely some bond, there's some sort of chemistry here between me and this individual, but it can't manifest, it can't turn into anything at this particular point in time, and that you were just almost fine with friendship. They've now kind of gone weird, they've gone silent, they've gone cold, they've gone awkward, and it's almost depriving you of even that element of touching on them at a soul level, even with the necessity of kind of distance between intimacy and between the two of you, and kind of what you're able to speak about, what is able to be expressed. That's an indication that, again, kind of this crush, this feeling, this heaviness, it's become a heaviness within, it's become a weightedness within, it's becoming something that they cannot bear. It becomes very uncomfortable to even just be in your presence, and that may be something that is very noticeably noted. This isn't somebody who's always been standoffish. It's like they've become standoffish or avoidant with you, without kind of reason to, without meaning to. If this is the situation where it's still someone kind of involved in your life in some capacity, that can be that clue or that indicator of sort of this energy within themselves. Is that, and it almost feels to be something where maybe if there's even like a couple situation, it's not that the couple doesn't show up or that the other person is being weird and awkward too. It's like just this individual is kind of, they're the storm cloud in the happy gathering, and they specifically are kind of like avoiding you. They're not wanting to interface with you, and it might be quite a contrast to sort of how things were in the early stages, and you've been wondering, like, did I offend them in some way? Have I made my feelings a little too obvious and known? Have they picked up on that and now they're stonewalling me? A lot of kind of confusion, a lot of heaviness, it feels like, mutually on both sides in this situation. So it feels to be something that it's, again, there's like multiple parties involved in this situation. It feels to be most likely a very mutual crush situation, a lot that has not been actualized, a lot that could not be spoken, and that there might even be kind of, fears of commitment, fears of intimacy that are, especially if people got divorced or got out of kind of long-term connections, almost a sense of kind of what would people think of this if we got together. Even if everybody's single, that's kind of a hindrance. There's just a lot going on in this situation to where it's very complex, and yet at the same time with the double rainbow, it's not just the sense of like a temptation of another. There's definitely some kind of soul bond here between the two of you, some kind of like deeper entanglement that is definitely experienced very mutually on both people's sides. So I'm gonna take a look now and see, do they plan on doing anything about these feelings or reaching out to you, expressing that in any way? So we have the Knight of Pentacles, which is earth energy, Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo. Ten of Pentacles, so more earth energy. And the Page of Swords, which is air energy, Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra. So definitely if this is a circumstance where they're still in a marriage, they're still in a third-party situation, all they can do is kind of just watch, just hold these feelings within. It's the energy of a standstill. It feels to be a lot of frustration. Even interestingly, this Page of Swords who's kind of facing away from these other cards right here. So it feels that this person will continue to kind of distance themselves, be more vague or elusive, you know, kind of avoid conversation, avoid eye contact. If you're forced to kind of be in a social setting or in the proximity to them. But it's really an indicator that they're struggling morally. It's kind of like which way to go. They may be at this point of sort of indecision right now, that they almost feel, and with good reason, it feels like this is somebody who's very ethical. They're operating with a moral compass. That's what's leading them. The sense of that there are other people and feelings and circumstances to consider, and so it's not just as simple as opening up and expressing what's in their heart space. And so they're really kind of putting the greater good first, both for things involved on your side and on their side, to where it's just not the appropriate time. It can't happen. And so they continue, though, nevertheless, to have these kind of feelings for you, this soul recognition, this deep sense of draw. And the only kind of option that they have is to continue to sort of create a wedge or a block or a barrier and kind of distance themselves from that. Because as far as they're seeing it, there's no kind of, it's a lose-lose situation either way, that it would require maybe hurting people on both sides or hurting somebody's feeling, or, you know, kind of if they had something that they needed to sacrifice in order to kind of make way for this, it's still so unknown at this particular point in time that it's kind of what the outcome is, if you even feel the same way. It's just a chemistry at this particular point. And so it's almost kind of the risk is outweighing the reward at this present time. So it feels like they continue to just sort of harbor that within, be very silent and very stoic and not speak about that. They continue to sort of choose and invest in whatever that third party situation is that they're involved in. If this is something where time and distance has separated the two of you, and maybe there were third-party entanglements in the past that have since become dismantled and unraveled on their own. You're both single, you're both available. The idea of, you know, some kind of algorithm or something through the grapevine that they've heard. They're back in town. They've you know, kind of caught wind of what you're up to at this particular point in time. It's like right person, wrong time. But now fast forward to where you're both at now, and it could be the road is open. Those obstacles of the past cease to exist. There's still some sort of a consideration almost of kind of like, what would other people think? So this could be other people that are related to, you know, maybe like a mutual friends group, or if this is someone who has to co-parent maybe with an ex-partner, it's taking that into consideration as well, that if they were to confess or move towards you, at least at this particular point in time, they almost feel to be in this holding pattern. For that situation, it's somebody they're really evaluating this. They're thinking about this. They're not dismissing the idea of moving forward, but they're almost needing to operate with kind of caution or prudence, really needing to sort of factor things in. Is this going to upset or offend their ex? Is this going to upset or offend or complicate what they're needing to do to co-parent, based on the nature of, you're not just somebody new they'd be dating, you in some way would have this association with like a previous friend group, or you know, you were maybe friends with their ex-spouse, and then maybe you and that ex-spouse have had a falling out. You know, so how would that kind of work? That not only is it, you know, that this person is then moving on and dating someone else, but that they're choosing to date someone that is actually, you know, not on good terms with the person they were previously married to. So either way, it feels like it's a lot of complications that, you know, if they're single and unattached at this point in time, there's still a lot else of other kind of details that are being factored in at this particular point in time about, how do I approach this? You know, how do I open this door? Are there going to be hurt feelings? You know, what are other people going to think? Even if it's just, It can even be the idea of sort of, if they confess their feelings, if things developed into a connection between the two of you, and then further down the line, let's say you became a couple and you're out and about and people say, well, so how did you two meet? And having to sort of explain that, like, well, we were both dating other people, we were married to other people, and, so we knew each other in that capacity, and it was always this really kind of great chemistry, and then those situations fell apart, and then it was the time for us. Not that there would necessarily be anything wrong with that, if there's two people that are single and available and they've got feelings, to move toward that. If both people are single and available, that's almost something that they're holding on to, that as a possibility of, that there's a little bit almost of kind of people pleasing, or a need to sort of detach from appearances, what other people would think. Because again, it's a heaviness, it's a weightedness. These are feelings that they have within. It's untapped potential, that in the past there may have been very logical and practical reasons why it couldn't have been acted upon. At this point in time, for some of you that this is resonating with, the only sort of obstacle is this idea of like, how would this look, because of the nature of our history with one another. And so they're not giving up on it. They're almost just kind of sitting, observing, waiting, kind of wrestling with themselves inside, kind of detaching from the idea of, other people's sort of energy of attention in a potential situation that could develop between the two of you. So either way, whatever kind of the motivation is, whatever the subtleties are, whatever the details are, and what feels to be kind of a multi-layered, complicated situation, someone you in some way have been maybe dealing with over a course of time, you've been aware of them over a course of time, the nature of that dynamic has changed over the course of time. There have been other people at certain points involved in this situation who are now no longer in the picture, or maybe something has changed for you, but they still got somebody who's in the situation. It feels to be kind of a lot of complications here, a lot of busyness, a lot of bodies in this situation here, a lot of different people in a domestic capacity, that this goes far beyond, at least at this point in time, it's just a practical concern. And this doesn't even get into the element of kind of fear of commitment or putting themselves back out there, sort of like, well, I've had these deep feelings. Maybe I'm someone who's just come out of a divorce. If these deep feelings lead to, a relationship and we get married and that falls apart, do I really want another divorce, under my wing? Do I really want that to kind of happen? So there's all kinds of different layers that are just overall, whatever the circumstances are, this is someone who's just in a holding pattern at this point in time. This is somebody who is trying to just kind of take things slow, wrestling with the nature of these feelings, even for the person that's still in the circumstance, still in the situation, that's kind of just stonewalling you and ignoring you. It's almost like they can't let these feelings go. There's something to learn, from this situation, or something they may still need to unpack. They may be at a point of not, as much as they're denying or trying to push these feelings away, they're not wanting to necessarily release them. There's somebody who's really struggling. Any of these situations, it all applies to a soul connection. So there's a bigger purpose to all of this, other than someone that's just tempted and having difficulty reconciling that within themselves. So I'm going to get a few more oracle cards to get some more clarification about this for you, and then I'll get some higher self messages from this person. So we have discernment, changing. At this time, the situation is in a state of flux. Anything could happen. And blossoming. So this energy of discernment is definitely that standstill, Knight of Pentacles energy. There's more to consider. There's more to factor into this situation. A lot of moving parts in this circumstance. And it feels like, in addition, again, to kind of elements on an emotional level, that this person hasn't even tapped into that yet, or, fully and completely. This is sort of like surface level barricades and obstacles, real world things that would make it would absolutely make sense in this situation. This doesn't feel like someone who's just kind of using excuses or deflecting responsibility. It feels like there really are kind of dynamics that are a little bit confusing about this situation, or it's just not so easy as kind of moving forward and expressing something. So they're trying to really do the right thing. They're trying to really just kind of do what they need to at this particular point in time. They're still really, again, though, kind of holding on to these feelings. They're not trying to discard this or push it away or let it go. It's almost just it's baggage. They're holding it within this period of I feel this has built, this has intensified, the idea of blossoming. They're coming to sort of a greater understanding, a plan of action, or as much as they may try to just hold in place, nevertheless, you've touched something within one another. It feels like at a soul level. So whether they are, distancing themselves and avoiding you, or whether they're directly participating, something within is growing. Something within is kind of has taken root, has turned from seed into this blossoming within them. It feels to be kind of like larger changes, maybe kind of bigger sort of life questions, ultimately, even aside from sort of feeling and romance and crush and attraction, that there's something bigger here that this situation may be really trying to catalyze within this person, which is why it's almost that they can't and won't let these feelings go, because there's something else to really learn from that. The idea here with changing as well does indicate that in all of those situations and scenarios, it may be something that almost kind of this pressure or this blossoming is causing cracks in the surface level foundation of whatever they are in. Maybe their marriage is something that is just kind of, it's turned into a transactional connection at this point. It may have been that you've stirred deep feelings within them at a soul level that is kind of bringing them back to life for the first time in a while. They're starting to question sort of, where are those allegiances? What is the nature of what they've committed themselves to? Does this, kind of fit in with sort of, an idea of happiness, or is this something that is truly kind of, where they want to continue to commit themselves in their life moving forward? And it feels to, again, it's not just sort of, do I choose the person I'm with or this other person, but it feels like these are big questions of kind of how they're living their life at this particular point in time. Decisions that they have made, choices that they have made, and the results that has brought them, the life they've created for themselves. It's all being called into question, which may be part of sort of the nature of your soul contract with one another. It began with this sort of seed of potential, or the seed of connectedness with you that they felt and experienced, and it feels like something that's kind of, it's blossomed out of control to where everything is being tested, everything is being challenged within themselves and within their life. So they may be on the brink of kind of a long overdue change in their circumstance and situation. For some people, though, this is going to result in sort of a recommitment to where they are at as a result of all of this, and maybe with this kind of renewed interest and renewed loyalty in where they find themselves at this particular point in time. So it may sort of benefit kind of the health and the stability of their current situation. For other people where, everybody's kind of single and unattached and free, and there are no kind of moral compunctions against moving toward one another. It's two single people. The only thing standing in the way is sort of, what would other people from the past think, or what would these people that, you or that they or both of you have to co-parent with, how are they going to feel about this situation based on kind of who the other individual is, what that history and backstory is. That even is something to where, they're currently just leaning into the stance of needing to think, needing to sort of marinate on this, needing to kind of let this knowledge settle. They may have just kind of, relatively speaking, recently been reintroduced to the idea of you. So this has kind of blossomed a lot that has been dormant within themselves. They've been holding it within themselves. And it's almost like, the right person, wrong time. Well, now the time is right. So what are they going to do to kind of course correct in this situation? And the idea of changing can again speak to, this holding pattern can lead to evolution, but it's something where they're wanting to really play their cards right in this situation. For you emotionally, for any other people that are involved in this emotionally, kids that are involved in this, friends and community that are involved in this. It's a sense of, not wanting to implicate in any sort of scandal, the energy of questioning in the possibilities of what may or may not germinate between the two of you. So it's somebody who's just kind of holding their ground at this particular point in time. They're not releasing these feelings. In a lot of ways, it feels like they almost can't, because there's something else they're meant to sort of discover and learn. Even if this is somebody where you're both free and kind of released from your other situations, and if they decide not to move forward because of that fear of what would other people think, this may be sort of a challenge, a trigger for them, again at the soul level, of kind of a tendency to sort of divert their own kind of free will into taking into account the opinions of other people, you know, how things look, how they have been leading their life in general, and how this kind of aligns or does not align with what they have been taught or what they've come to believe is normal or acceptable. All of these as, again, kind of these bigger sort of existential questions that they are needing to ask themselves at this point in time. So it's definitely something to where this crush situation, these are feelings that have almost kind of awakened something deep within the core level of this individual. It goes far beyond just whatever they do or don't do in terms of announcing these feelings, moving forward in these feelings. This may be something also very reciprocally, the experience with this person, you know, these feelings coming on unexpectedly, it may have really caused you to question or change a lot of things in your life. Definitely this can be a soulmate connection, a twin flame that you're dealing with here, any number of things to where it's bigger than just the love and romance. It's something where, you know, it's on a core level. It's brought forth a lot of questions, and also is a potential doorway to change within each of you on an individual level, which then kind of opens up the possibility of other timelines and potentials for you in the material world as well. So let's see what they want you to know from their higher self at this time. Okay, and they say, I am afraid to trust. So definitely they are skeptical about the nature of any decision that they make towards you, whether they are still with somebody, if they're not with somebody. There's a sense of the nature and gravity of what they feel. It's very unexpected. It's very scary. It's very pervasive. It's a sense almost at a soul level that in some way to acknowledge these feelings out loud or to move towards you, it represents a big step spiritually for them in terms of life changes. This is more than just someone holding feelings for another person and choosing to kind of act upon those or not act upon those. There's a sense of understanding that whatever the decision they make, whether it is to continue to sort of hold that peace, hold those feelings within and not act upon it in this lifetime, or, you know, if circumstances play out, or maybe they're already situated at this point where the door is open, all they need to do is walk forward, that there is nothing sort of standing in the way of exploring or experiencing this other than just sort of you know, again, like opinions of other people, or a fear of being judged or looked down upon based on kind of the history, the backstory between the two of you. There's a sense as well that whatever decision they make in this capacity, it's going to be life-changing for them. It represents something on like a soul or a spiritual level that they were very unprepared to deal with. It's something that has stayed with them ever since they became aware of this within themselves. If it's been time and distance, you know, away from one another, this has remained. You are etched within their mind and within their memory. It's a lot of questions, but also the idea of they seem to understand that you kind of, the experience of you or how they deal with this even process of questioning within, it holds the answer to a lot for them that is almost bigger than this lifetime. They also say I'm overcoming my fears. So this can tie into big decisions, a big conversation that needs to take place, maybe something, a third party situation that has been crumbling for quite some time. And they are getting to the place of being very uncomfortable, kind of just going through the motions of that, remaining in a situation that has passed its expiration date and moving to that brink of fear where they're taking a leap of faith forward for themselves. In the aftermath of that comes the process then of needing to heal. It doesn't feel like something where if they're going to exit a situation, they're going to run right towards you. They're going to need to take some time to themselves and kind of recalibrate to a new normal. If this is somebody where the road is clear and it's just this kind of internal perception that is holding them back at this particular point in time, they are again that Page of Swords and blossoming. They're still thinking about this. They're holding on to this. They're marinating on this. They're really fighting and wrestling that sort of, where is my heart? Where is my soul calling me versus kind of this 3D version of myself that is very concerned of what other people might think. If there's nothing kind of outwardly egregious about the nature of the two of you moving toward one another, if you're free and able to do so, then it really does come down to the energy of, kind of, again, giving their power away to sort of the perception of how that will appear to others, which they're understanding on a certain level doesn't serve their highest good as well. That this is something which they're seeing, at least rudimentarily, is the path of fear. That is the very definition of fear. And so there's a part of them that is really trying to pivot in the other direction to make a more balanced decision, and to really consider kind of what a choice in the direction of love would look like. They also say I'm working on myself. So again, overcoming those fears, thinking about this, really considering and contemplating how to make a move forward, if it's time to make a move forward. The feelings that they may have gone buried and dormant within, but something has really resurrected them. It's a sense of they want to explore this, they want to experience this, and in some way, to make that move forward, the act in and of itself, what may result from that, there's an understanding within that this kind of, it's bigger than love and romance. There's something on a soul level here that has been awakened by the nature of your interactions with one another. Even if it's been a long time since you've seen one another or dealt with one another directly, they still feel you. Your energy has been with them. You've been a companion with them. They recognize something within you that exists within themselves, and they have not been able to forget that. So they're kind of like working up the courage, working up the nerve to make some sort of different decision here. If this ties into somebody who's still in some kind of third-party situation, they may be moving to the brink as well of kind of stepping out of that circumstance. But again, they're going to need to work on themselves. They're going to need to heal before they kind of move towards you. That might be a big step for them in and of themselves. It may be kind of, a process of needing to find themselves again, rediscover themselves again, but still kind of that Knight of Pentacles energy and the discernment, holding that feeling, holding that potential within. And they also say, I remember everything you said. So you have left a lasting impression upon this person. Conversations, interactions, time spent with one another, very intense eye contact between the two of you. Your words have lingered. The memory of you has lingered. Your energy has lingered. You're unforgettable. And it's more than just who you are in a physical sense. It's more than just your personality. It's more than just however you define yourself in this lifetime. This is soul recognition right here, where they keep being drawn back. Again, regardless of sort of what does or does not happen romantically speaking, there's a sense here of that they may still be kind of grappling to understand or to unpack fully. But this idea of it's not an accident you've crossed one another's paths, and it feels very frustrating that there's all this potential, and yet there were also these kind of real world complications that, in a perfect situation, in another life, in a different time, it could have opened to so much possibilities between the two of you, but it didn't, or it hasn't up to this point in time. And so they're in this process of kind of searching for meaning within themselves, and starting, it feels like, even to scratch kind of beneath the kind of deeper implications of the dynamic between the two of you as well. And they also say, I don't want to miss my chance with you. So if this is a situation, again, where both people are now single, third parties have been cut out of the equation, or you've moved beyond third party situations, this is, again, this indicator of, even though they're taking time, even though they have some things that they have to weigh, they're in a process of kind of rising beyond some sort of people-pleasing tendency within, or a fear of kind of following the direction that their heart and their soul is leading them. They are very much compelled in your direction. It's almost like a momentary pause, kind of looking, observing, gathering information, gathering that courage, overcoming these aspects of themselves that may have, you know, this may be an overwhelming tendency to kind of just live their life in accordance with what other people want for them. There may have been a lot of things that they had not done or missed opportunities that have really stacked. It's represented that baggage as well, as far as regrets. This situation, whatever they've kind of seen now at this point, there's a window of opportunity, and it's really compelling them to the point of like making a change in this direction can signal the beginning of other changes in their life as well. And they also say, my nerves get the best of me sometimes. So they may have considered reaching out to you already. They may be kind of going back and forth. Should I say something? Should I not? Is it the time? Is it not? You may be picking up on a little bit of that dissonance from them, kind of an energy of sort of a bit of adrenaline as well. They're very much drawn to you. A part of them really comes alive at the soul level when they are near you. This also ties into the idea, if this is somebody that is still kind of, there are third parties in the mix on their side or your side, and this is someone who's kind of gotten stonewall, you know, they become very like stony, they've stonewalled you, they avoid eye contact, they're being weird and kind of distant. This is that confirmation of it's too intense to kind of look at you. It's too intense to encounter you because you've awakened something within the soul level that goes beyond just a level of attraction or crushing on you. It's something fundamentally within them that is now in this process of change, that to lean too deeply in, it's almost, you know, a whole version of themselves that would need to be birthed forth, that is ready to kind of leap and meet you on some other timeline. And the nature and gravity of that may be very challenging to them. It may really be a struggle to kind of maintain their composure, to not get flustered around you. And it's kind of, it feels like led to sort of the opposite result, where now you're picking up awkwardness. Now it's weird. Now you're wondering, did I do something? Did I let this person know, you know, if you're crushing on them as well, you know, because for some people this can be one-sided. This can just be an effect you've had on this person, and you may just be clued into who this is. You may be very aware of kind of who this is based on sort of this energy of how their behavior or attitude towards you has changed in a sense. But it again speaks of this element of awakening within, that it's more than just I'm so attracted to this person that I can't have for a variety of reasons at this point in time. It goes further than that into some depth and layer as far as this individual represents something significant to me at a soul level. There's a part of me that is now wanting to kind of come forth into the light, come forth into the present reality, and all of that may be so overwhelming that their only kind of reflex is to sort of tuck away from you at this time. So I'm going to get some initials, and this can be a first, middle, or last name of you or this person, or it can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Got R, N, M, E, D, A, E, S, F, X, Y, O, K, P, T, V, I, L, L, and B. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop, and there's a link in the description box of the video for that. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of those out as well. And I'd launched a second channel here on YouTube, which is called Lady of the Dawn Tarot. There's a link to that in the description box of the video, as well as in the channel section of my page. The format over there consists of readings related to topics other than love and romance, so if you're looking for something a little different from me, that is the place to find it. I thank you for your support there, as well as for your continued support here on this channel. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well.